Nice to meet you, everyone. Today, we're going to have our panel of directing under COVID. And this is one of the events related to the International Online Theatre Festival, the third edition in 2021. And the theatre festival is supported by the world's largest theatre panel, Bochow, which is the Theatre Times, the website. So today the panel topic is directing under COVID, and we have five greatest panelists with us. So first we have Dr. Jörg Bochow. The Jörg Bochow was faculty at the Department of Theatre Studies at Humboldt University of Berlin. From 2000 to 2005, Jörg was working as assistant professor at University of Toronto, where he taught theatre history theory at University College Drama program, acting director of the program from 2004 to 2005. Since 2005, Jörg has been working as the head of the drama third and artistic vice director at the major theaters in Germany, including the State Theatre of Stuttgart, the Deutsche Schauspielhaus Hamburg, and also the State Playhouse Theatre of Dresden. So then we have Chen. He is a director from China, graduated from the Communication University of China in the broadcast journalism, and Jörg has an MFA degree in directing at Chapman University with a documentary background. Jörg believes that a story hides in the real life, which reflects the truthful humanity in society. And also, many of his work has been underrepresented, the communities which has been ignored by the mainstream media, and many of his work has been awarded, nominated, and selected into more than 20 international film festivals worldwide. So, and also we have Tianjiao from Quirky Moth Theatre, she also have an MFA in screenwriting and communication at Communication University of China. And she is also one of the co-founder of Quirky Moth Theatre, and has been awarded in the finalist of the 4th Rushe Literature Prize. And her second play, Bai Ma Troop, was opened in December of 2019 at the Drum Tower West Theatre in Beijing. So, and then we have Cynthia Rushi. She is theatre director, performer, and acting coach. Her work combines a detailed attention to text with an open-ended experimentation of devising process. And her productions has been performed internationally, including at the Barbican London and the Baryshnikov Arts Center, New York, and Lincoln Theatre, Washington, DC, the CND Paris, the Esplanade, Singapore, and the Bochow Arts Festivals. And she's also currently based in the Royal Central School of Speech of Drama. And her colleague, the Margaret Laurena Kemp, her work explores authorship and the spatial politics through hybrid performances. And she's also a guest artist. Engagements includes the Shanghai Arts Academy, the National Institute of Dramatic Arts in Australia, and the University of Cape Town in the States. So Kemp has toured her work in Australia, South Africa, and United States. And recent awards include 2019 Lucas Arts Residency, the Headlands Residency in 2017, and Kennedy Center American College Theatre Arts Awards for directing the UC Davis production of The Bluest Eyes. So thank you for all our greatest panelists coming today and joining the panel, which is topic with directing and the COVID. And since we have already learned each other, So I would like to let each of our panelists to talk about your productions that you have been participant in the theatre festivals. So I would like to know in what ways that you have taken advantages of internet or other media technology or communication technology to make the direction happening when you are going to produce the work that you did. So I think Sinéad and Margaret, would you like to kick off with your greatest production of AntigoneNOW?
Right. Well, I think we were probably one of the first because we were already in pre-production before the pandemic. So then the next day it was like, oh, okay, well, we have to do something different. And I think that what's important to maybe think about with this production is that we had no pre-plan. We really had to be nimble and think on our feet. And with Sinead being in the UK and myself being in Northern California and our cast being sort of scattered all over the planet, we just really decided that we would do it pre-recorded and communicate with our cast by Zoom.
Yeah, and I suppose maybe just to put in context, so it was going to be a live production of Antigone by Sophocles. We were working with the translation of Seamus Heaney, and what we decided to do instead then was to try to make a film, which we called AntigoneNOW. And we had all the cast members, all 12 of them, all female identifying cast. Everyone played Antigone, and we boiled the whole thing down to this moment where Antigone defies the law to bury her brother that's untouchable. And so we had all of the actors film themselves in isolation wherever they were on their personal devices and create scenes. And Margaret and I edited that together into a short 20-minute film instead.
Yeah, I really appreciate the kind of autonomy that you gave to the different actors and let them to show up their subjectivities. It is one of the uniqueness that I really enjoy watching the productions. And it was just this morning when I was talking with Margaret, I realized that it was kind of like produced and directed in different places all over the world. Because that you make it very coherently. Like when I see like different actors playing for their own sessions, there's also a coherent things that has been from the moment to the end of the production. It's really nice. So how do you decide to grant the actors with such a very high autonomy? Is that one of the creativities that you do, or is that one of the compromise way that you have to do?
For me, it wasn't a compromise. I do that quite a lot, even in my classes. Students who, if English isn't their first language, I often allow them to start scene work in what their home language is so that they can discover what their personal connections and how language works for themselves. And the technique that we use was also something that I've done a few times as a solo artist, where I've asked people who are watching the performance. I do a lot of work around surveillance. And then I collect that material and create another visual work out of it. So it's actually something that I do all the time. But I think maybe Sinead might want to talk. I don't know what Sinead might want to talk about, but one of the things we offered the actors ideas and images and said, well, wherever you are, see what inspires you.
Yeah, I think it was a journey probably, you know, initially I certainly, I didn't think, oh great, they're all going to have autonomy and do their own thing, you know. I wasn't thinking that, foregrounding that, but it was just necessary. I mean, we had no choice. And of course we started out, you know, giving shots, as Margaret said, you know, proposing images. We see this for this moment, try this, try to, you know, we would kind of build the shot for them and say, try that. And as time went on, well, we were a bit more exhausted, and so, but also they started, actors just started to make proposals or do something else, and they started to watch it. We had a shared drive where we put everyone's clips up so everybody could see everybody else's clips. And so they just started to see each other's work and started to propose other things that weren't the imagination of Margaret and I. And of course, as time went on, it was far better. It was more interesting.
Yeah,
it was much better. And so we evolved with that and said, well, we're trying to create a space where people's own imaginations are firing, and we're trying to build something from that. So I think there was something, an organic evolution.
Yeah.
And also, I was also going to say,
Margaret, go ahead, Margaret, please.
When we received the videos, sometimes there would be a little seed of an idea in there, and that's where the directing also steps in, where, oh, you were doing this, so it becomes a little bit like something you might do on stage. You see an actor doing something, and you pull that out into the space, knowing how useful it will be for the entire work.
That's great. That's one of the great, when I was teaching some kind of undergraduate student at Royal Holloway, University of London, they are really kind of like liking something which is really autonomous, and also helping them to build up their devising abilities and trying to do that. So this is really brilliant. So thank you, Sinéad, and thank you, Margaret. So shall we have Jörg? Would you like to talk about something about the Renaissance, which is really a short production, but it's related to European theatre conventions, and also talk about what kind of advantages that you have taken over like the communications or over the social networks that you use?
Yes,
well,
first of all.
Oh, sorry. You're right. Okay.
You address it to me, I guess.
Yeah, Jörg.
Because our names sound so similar, Jörg. So that's me, Jörg, my name. Yes, first of all, I would like to see the production Antigone we were just talking about. I'm quite curious how it comes together then as a piece of art, this interesting collaborative work. What we did was a call by the ETC, European Theatre Convention, to produce short theatre productions on film, about 5 minutes, and to bring them together. 22 countries participated, 22 theaters. And we had before, when we were in this crisis, not being able to communicate with our audience because we couldn't play, developed a new format, which started off by an idea by an actress, a young actress. She proposed, let's do something with Instagram, a format where people can participate. So it's an element of participatory theater to it, so that we say, okay, send us your ideas in terms, in the first pieces, it was just very free, quite random actually. What are you concerned with? And they send it in, and the dramaturg has 24 hours to make a text out of it, and then gives it to the actor, basically one, in this case it was two, to produce in 3 days a short film. And the actors direct themselves. And the idea is it's a one-shot film. It's just one camera, so that we have the live performance organized on the big stage, which is empty now, so that the actors can develop their own setup and agree with the operators how they want to do it. And we don't interfere that much. We just try to help, but they do it on their own. I think that's a similar approach you had, the autonomous actors. So the actors give a much greater role and independence, how to deal with it. And here, of course, the live action, so we do it twice a month, comes into play. We send us terms, we make a text, and in 3 days, you see a short film. And then when the Renaissance idea came from the ETC, we used this format, which we had already done before for this discussion about what is really the renaissance of theater. Do we see it as this wonderful world which comes out, or do we see also the disadvantages, which we also refer to the historical renaissance, but also what does it mean renaissance in theater? And we try to discuss that because we use technologies like Instagram. We can reach out. It's very quick. It's good. You can have international communication. But on the other hand, you have to play by the rules of the systems. You cannot, in the theater, we are rather independent. Okay, we get a contract from a certain political social structure to do in these theater houses what we think is necessary. But here you have to play by the rules of Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, whatever. So they are prescribed. So, and how to deal with that? This seemingly you are quite free, but on the other hand, you deal with it. It's already the format, you know, it's vertical. Why it's vertical? Because they do it for the mobile phones. So, and you have to play with that and at least to discuss it. That was our attempt to see how we can do it. And actually this production is just one element of how we try to communicate with our audience besides the other productions we produce. So also on the large scale now, we are going to produce an 8-hour live streaming of the Book of Disquiet by Pessoa, which is played overnight in a museum. So it starts at 10 p.m. in the evening and goes to 6 to the morning. So, and we ask people perhaps if they want also to sleep during that performance. That is the experiment. So it was planned as a live performance, but now we have to see and what kind of reactions we get. So how is it to invite somebody for a night of theater and you're allowed to sleep in between? So that's what we are trying to do right now.
Yes, yes. I was thinking this is really amazing stuff that I have ever seen, especially the interactions that between the actors and also the audiences. And I have one very interesting question, very curious question is there any technicians behind this production who are always like on site to support the communication between the actors and audiences?
Yes, we have in our theater department for social communication, and they organize the process. And we realized even if it's a 5-minute film, you need a lot of organization behind. You need the operator, you need the sound technician to support this. So we have to have a meeting before to clarify this. But basically, it is in the hand of the actors. And I think that's an interesting development, which I try to compare with what you do. The interaction between the different members of a theater production, how they can change, and also how we can help us with more spontaneous impulses. So we are more forced to present this is live than you are in the theater, which is in front of an audience. Because people would say, oh, it's pre-produced. That's like traditional TV or film. So we have to do more to present, no, that happens now in that moment.
Yes, yes. I would say that this kind of things, and even I can imagine that if it is live, that interaction may not only happen between actors and audiences, it could also create a new internet auditorium, like the audiences through the comments on the Instagram, they are trying to communicate with each other. That will be very interesting. And after watching the production, it really gives me something that I see like two audiences that are kind of communicating using the comments. That's one of the very interesting stuff I've ever seen.
But it's also, if I may add this, a dangerous element to it, because we split up the audience. One part of the audience is actively involved, the others are just watching on the screen. And then we have elder people who ask us, oh, where can I turn on the TV? I want to see this as well. So who are not willing or able or to communicate with these technologies as much as young people do. So there is a danger that we split up the audience, and the question will be how we bring that still together, because that is something to connect people, what theater also does or should do.
So thank you, Jörg. Nice to hearing that those kind of behind the stage stories, and also that your thoughts about how to make the production happen. So it will be still for the same question. So shall we have Joe? Are you not be able to show your visual screen? So, but can you hear us, Joe? And can you hear us? I'm thinking you are, no, can you just raise your hands up, use the reaction button to raise your hands up if you can speak or if you can hear us. If not, we will just skip over this part and then we'll move on to the second section. When you are ready with the technology, we can come back. Yeah, so let's move on to the second session and then we'll be coming back when Joe is ready with their technology, because I can see from the chat that they are able to hear from us, but they may meeting some technological issues on joining the discussion, but they will still be there listening to us and they will share some of their opinions later. Okay, so so the next question, which will be specifically for each production team. So Stu, for the AntigoneNOW, I know that you are working with students and they are like the actors are doing like all over the world. And the first very small question as a background question is, are they from the same program? So, and the other question is, if you would like to introduce about a little bit of how the higher education support the drama and theater students and to making this kind of a project under the COVID restrictions all over the world. I mean, what kind of helps and supports did you get from the education, maybe from UC Davis, maybe from the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama, and how it is helpful for the production, especially from the student perspective. Would you be able to introduce a bit, Son?
All of the cast were UC Davis students, but interestingly, because our school has from BA to PhD, we had a broad range of ages because students from different levels of their training were in the production. And Sinead?
Yeah, I mean, Central wasn't involved at all in this because I was a guest artist at the UC Davis Theatre and Dance Department, so it was happening. It was happening there, if you like. And I think what's interesting there, because it was is a department in a university. I mean, I don't know if this is right, Margaret, but I think that did give a certain level of freedom and play and experimentation that made it possible. I think, you know, I teach on a conservatoire acting program at Central, and you know, I'm not sure we would have been able to be so agile and nimble and responsive. I think our students absolutely would have been up for it in some sense, but I think it's very hard with a full-time actor training that's trying to hit certain goals and certain outcomes at the end. I think it yeah, I think that might have been much harder to do. So I really appreciated here that there was a capacity to just kind of run with the craziness of what we were doing, and that we were making it up as we went along, and there certainly was a freedom there, and I think it was made possible largely by a very supportive stage management department who really embraced the chaos of our digital drive and all those films. And I think it really required people to be on board with that, and the stage management there were particularly up for it and could see its pedagogical, educational value. So some of those things you can't really work if the institution is against you. You know, that's not really well, you can, but it's hard and painful. Where I felt like there with the stage management department, we had some backup to get the show on the road, you know.
And also with costuming, figuring out how, because I think George was talking a little bit about form. So Sinead and I were thinking, what are the elements of theater that we can bring to this performance? And one of them was costuming. And then we realized, well, we have to send them the costume. What can we get? So there were lots of different negotiations, a lot of thinking through things that normally you wouldn't have to think so much about, because a costumer will just make an offering, a presentation, but she was just as uncertain as we were what to do. This is not what she had planned. Mm-hmm.
I think there's also something interesting about restriction, you know, like there were certain things where the department said, no, we can't, no. Are you kidding me? No, we were like, well, we could just, maybe somebody could just go into the theater and just do that. Or like we wanted to film the empty theater that we were supposed to do it in and think, oh, that would have a great poetry. And they were like, no, you're not going in. And, you know, we kind of thought, oh, the sound, it's going to sound so shit. We need to get, can we buy nice mics and post them out to people? And it was just, you know, it just, you know, there was quite a few, look, no, I don't think that's going to be that feasible, which can be very helpful. You just basically go, your options kind of narrow down, and in that narrow space, you know, something else can expand. I think restriction can be just very creative sometimes.
Yes.
And then we just had to embrace. Margaret said to me, it's lo-fi, accept it, it's going to be lo-fi.
It's more like when you got something unfortunate, but you always have something like which will be nice is coming along with it.
Exactly.
Yes, directly. So thank you, Sinead. Thank you, Margaret, for sharing some of your experience, like negotiating with the schools, and also to get some like material like help, and also I think that's very important for a student to get some help and get some to continue on with their educations and with their projects, especially for drama and theater students. They have to be immersive in the practice. So that's really nice to hear some of your opinions and really thought-provoking. So and the next question will for Jörg. So as I know that as part of our project European Theatre Convention, and also as you mentioned before, that you were working very kind of like cooperatively with the Theatre European Convention, and also very closely with the actor and also the social networks. But please don't get me wrong if I'm misunderstanding the name, because the name of the company is the State Theatre of Dresden. So I wonder, is that a state theatre? Is that a public owned theatre, or is that a private or half-half? In what way you are running the theatre? And if you are getting some support or a little bit share with its public, so have you ever got any support from the government or from the public organizations or associations when you were doing the production?
Yes, yeah, we are a publicly funded theater funded by the state of Saxony, so it's in the federal system in Germany. So, and the artistic team is hired mostly for 5 years, and then you can renew your contract. So that's why we work often in different cities for a couple of years. So that we could keep also our ensemble during that time because there was a certain program of so-called short working, so people got paid from other fundings. And of course, we got a lot of solidarity from our audience who did not, you know, they are subscribers paying in advance for a year. And many of them said, okay, we will go to the theater later, but we don't demand the money back. So we got a lot of support with that. And for us, it was important then, after a certain moment when we couldn't play, how to keep the communication with them. So how to share them, because we were rehearsing, we were working, but nothing comes out. So, and that's why we developed this kind of format and other formats. And other was when we were allowed to play in a very limited way, that we created a very short piece of 1.5 hours, where 7 actors played monologues, also media, so the themes, because they fit very well for the structures. And each played for one audience member. So the audience went to the theater, going to different stations, where an actor and actress was waiting for him, giving her role, her perspective on the story of Medea. So they did it 10 times to have 10 people being performed for them. We had never come to this idea because economically it is a disaster. You know, you have 7 actors and 10 people watching it, and to play 7 people play in a row for one person. But it's a very, very deep experience. And people, the audience said, I've never felt this kind of experience. And we were lucky that in this situation of limitations, and this is creativity coming out of limitations, we were able to have a contact which normally you wouldn't have this approved, because the administration would say, no, it's so inefficient in numbers, but in the depth, what happens between performer and audience, it's very valuable. So we could do that at least. But I see now our colleagues from China are here, and you might ask them also.
Yeah, we thank you, Jörg, and thank you for sharing those kind of like information about how you got support and how you communicate with the government. I mean, this seems like a consistent seems like between all the production teams and the supporting organization, whether it will be government or whether it will be education. So we are always negotiating our ways with the different ways. So because like the Quirky in China, which is a private sector, they are a private theater company, and which is in a small scale. So I would also like to hear something from you, Joe and Tianjiao. So the first thing, the question will be, how have you been negotiated with fundings and with different restrictions when you are trying to do these productions under the pandemic? And I know that the production that you made is also by a remote directing ways, which is through Zoom, as Joe is the director who was staying in US because of the travel restrictions, and the production team, all the actors and directing was doing by the Zoom account and using the way that the directing through the computers and the communication with different softwares, and all the shooting was happening in China. So how do you make it happen, and how the private theater companies come through the pandemics by making this remote directing method? Can you unmute yourself first, Joe?
Cool. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. So actually that short film is funded by a Young Director Supporting Program. So actually we submit our feature film project to like a committee who support young directors. And then I got into the top 10, but I said that I cannot really get back to China for directing a trailer or a teaser for my film. And they said, well, let's see how it goes. And then I take the challenge, and I actually I have all the hands back in China who I have worked with, beforehand. So actually we know each other pretty well and we were really close friends. So I think that's basically the foundation of the remote directing process, because they just need to know me a lot. And as you guys know, directing is not only just saying action and cut, it's about communicating, it's about like all creative teams collaboration. So I think before we started the whole process, we thought it's just a matter of technical, like the technical problems or something. But actually, when we really get into the process, like remote location scout, let's say, or remote rehearsing or remote shooting and everything, I found that the pre-production is actually hard because we have to communicate with each other. And how are we gonna just get through the time and space? How my idea can be interpreted in another area, and how my directions can be directly get to all the creative members. So I think in that, like in terms of the whole pandemic, I think we are just be blocked because of the pandemic, but thanks to the internet, we do have some access to talk with each other. And we know if we are close enough with the other creator, then we know what we want, even though we're not in the same, sharing the same space. So we are just using like the Zoom stuff, and technically I can see the monitor for like all the time. And I have a five people directing team who can separate all my like sprint to the set in a way. Let's say I have like a first AD to just run the set, and I have an actor, like a I would say an actor trainer or something, because we do deal with picking opera actors, and we do deal with the children. We do deal with a lot of background actors. So I have her husband, who is also who learned picking opera from a really young age, to assist me to direct all the actors and all the picking opera stuff. And I also have an assistant who helped me, who was online with me the whole time and trying to do the communication with my team on set, with the actors, my cinematographers, and everyone. And also I give all my, I would say, I give all the decision-making power to my cinematographer. So he is actually the one who's saying action and cut, and I give directions to him. And just because we're super, super, super close. So he is already in my brain. He knows me so much, so that we can really do the directorial things on set. And also Tianjiao, she is the key member of my director team, because she is basically like coordinates everyone, because she is the mom of the script. She is the mom of the story. And she knows me and she knows the story so well. So when
I know my husband very well.
Yeah, and also she knows me really well. So actually when we're on set, even though I'm not there, but they can make a lot of the decisions for me, and I'm more, I would say more like supervising and monitoring it. And because of the technology, I can see the frame all the time. So I can do the adjustment as quick as, like, just say like real time. So we don't really need like a lot of back and forth, because we know each other. We have really good foundation of communication. We do all the storyboards online. We do everything online, and we have the trust and understanding with each other. So I think that's basically the reason why we can make it.
Yes. Oh, I mean, this kind of like very lovely stories that you have such a close friendship, and also the connections between different artists and different team members within the production. So it also reminds me something about how the subjectivities of artistic of artists can make the creation and innovation in a way that or how to structure the whole production. So this is really impressive and very interesting story and background information to hear about what was happening behind an opera boy and his paradise, which is the name of your production. It was very lovely. And also I have one more question for you, which regarded your understanding, regarded your informations and stories. So can you give me one of the examples that you mentioned something about that is mostly not only a technical issues, mostly like a communication difficulties. So can you give me one of the specific example that what kind of difficulty have you ever met when you are trying to communicate with the production team on site? And how did you deal with it? What method you used to deal with it?
I think I would say like every process is hard because I'm not there. Just from the start, let's say the location scout. So actually Tianjiao leads the team for me when we are doing location scout, because we cannot really shoot it in Beijing. So we have to find another place with a strong Peking opera background, and we have like local theater group who can help with us doing the communication and helping us find the actors. When they're there, I'm always like 100, like all the time online with them. So I see all the angles of the location just through like a small phone. And just because they know me a lot, so when I'm saying like I want to say see the hallway, and then they'll show me the hallway in the way that I want it, because when we're doing the location scout, we're really not really focusing on only one spot or something. We're feeling the whole environment, because that will also give us the creativity when we're doing the directorial work. So I think because Tianjiao and my team know me so well, so when we're doing the location scout, they show me like 360 degrees of the location. And they even can provide me more about the professional aspect, because her husband is also on set with us doing the scouts. So he will help me to ask like what equipments they have, or what classroom they have. And that really matters, because the story we're telling is not a current story. It's like 20 years in the past. So we really want to see the texture of the era. So I think that's something that only came through that phone monitor. It's scary after it's done, but it's pretty much fun. It's just like you're doing like a VR game or something. You just feel the space through a small phone, and you're trying to put yourself in the whole environment and feel it. And also in the remote rehearsing, I do that with my small actor. He doesn't really has a Peking opera background, but he grew up in a Peking opera family, so he sort of pick up something. So I have his husband and her helping me to communicate with the actor and see what his limit is, like if he can do this technique or not, or if he can sing that well or not. And also I can only use that phone to see like what kind of technique we can show it on the screen, and it will look good. And also with the professional actors, we also do the online rehearsing too through Zoom. Let's say we talk, we communicate, we know each other just through the small monitor, and then also they let's say they'll put their camera like far away from them. I see the whole space and their whole body, and then we do the rehearsal. And we even do the rehearsal with both of them in different places, just to see how they match with each other. So I think the whole process is all about how we talk and how we communicate just through the small smartphone or the laptop. It's pretty scary, I would say. You can't really tell how hard it is, but when you just look back, you will just take a breath And thanks God.
And we are so lucky.
Yes, it's really,
So hard.
yeah. I would say this is really, and also the production that you made is really a great quality, and according to whatever the which aspects is very a great production. And thank you, Joe and Tianjiao. So thank you. So as time limitation, so we are going to have our last question. So the last question is for all of our panelists. So I hope that you can give me some very brave and short answers about how do you see these very unique and innovative way of directing can be projected into the future when we are going to enter into a post-COVID or post-pandemic era. So Jörg, would you like to kick off?
Yes, I think we won't go back to the way we did theater before. So we will have a new idea how to combine digital technology and theater. So there will be a lot of hybrid formats, I suppose, within our theater, which try to combine the live element of theater with some aspect of technology. And this will also change the aesthetics of theater. So we already think about in which way these technologies change the way we approach certain formats. And I'm really curious to see what kind of different theater ideas will come out of that, dealing with the limitations and what you bring out of limitations and new possibilities. I think that will be for the next couple of years determining our way of thinking of theater.
Great, thank you, Jörg. Sinéad and Margaret, would you like to follow?
Well, one thing I think is I think actually it will maybe do something to the pure live event. So the kind of appreciation and the thrill of being all together and experiencing something as a crowd and as a community. I think that it will ignite a kind of rigor, maybe a kind of rigor, or the kinds of things that are absolutely unique to that space. And so there may be a kind of shedding of the stuff that feels like it's not absolutely vital to that exchange. I hope that will be the case, but I can kind of feel the potency of the live. The other very simple thing I think is the capacity for international exchange of some kind that's less expensive, that involves less travel, that this feels like we're having this conversation across the world. It's fantastic. We would never be having it otherwise. So I think there's loads of potential there.
I feel the same. I think that that's a really important element that I don't think will go away. I think it's very empowering, particularly for companies that are not well supported. You know, in the United States, there's no national theater. So people are creating it with their own budgets. And for somebody to reach out to me on Facebook and say, we have an idea and we can bring you into the space just by Zoom to make it work. And also, I'm actually developing a show that's in an app that has elements of live performance through the app. So we'll find out. There's a lot of, sense of play, find out what happens. It may be a complete disaster, but it's called Click, in case you're interested and want to plug it, but it'll be, the app will be available about 2 weeks.
Great, thank you, Margaret, thank you. So Joe and Tianjiao, is there anything that you would like to add up?
Oh, can I say one other thing? I'm sorry.
Yeah, of course.
Developing that app with my colleague, Roger Ellis, and it's being supported by Northwestern University in Illinois.
Great. Thank you. So Tianjiao and Joe, is there anything that you would like to add up? Oh, can you unmute yourself first?
Yeah. If we have another choice, we would like to meet in person.
Yeah, we don't want to try again.
But there's always a way to tell better stories.
开阔了我们的思路。
Yeah, it really help. She's saying it really helped us to being open-minded to facing that difficulties, but
提供了更多可能性。
yeah, it really gives us, or we tried more possibilities of storytelling. And we think that creativity and communication can't get out of the box in a way because of the pandemic, which is good as a creator to think about to tell a story in another way. But it do have risks. The risks is how we can trust each other and how we can communicate.
可能换一个团队，我们就做不到这个程度。
Yeah, if it's not us, if it's not all the people we know so well, then we may not doing it because it really relies on how close we are in person.
Yes, great. I mean, this will be an era that we are not expected to see, but as many unfortunate pandemics was happening all over the world, we are forced to moving on to the next step of how to dealing with the theater and drama. And I see a lot of our colleagues all over the world, from the education, from the governments, and from the private sectors, were all facing more or less the same difficulty and problems and issues. But I also see, and we are all trying to making it positively and trying to come over of it in a way that we can do with our creativities, innovation capacities, and also our own way that we can base on the powerful history and developments insofar in the theater and drama industry. So I was so grateful for all our panelists coming to join me today for this panel about directing and COVID, and sharing a lot of your precious experiences by doing the productions. So this recording will be on the 4th of June as a closing event. And for the audiences who will be seeing this recording on the 4th of June, you will still have 1 day time to view, to see, to watch all these precious productions: AntigoneNOW, Renaissance, and Opera Boy and His Paradise. So thank you, Joe, Tianjiao. Thank you, Sinéad. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Jörg. Thank you for coming. I'm really grateful for your joining.
Thank you, everyone. It was great meeting you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
It was a pleasure to see you all.
Great, thank you.